Kristen.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, Kevin.
So, welcome to the Marriage and the Buff podcast, where we talk all things marriage, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, talk about how you overcome struggles, how other people, we have guests that tell us about how they overcome struggles.
We haven't had a guest in a while.
We haven't. So, it probably won't be next week because next week is super busy. So, hopefully the week after.
That'll be exciting.
Very exciting. Almost
know
as
what?
exciting as you.
You know why next week's busy?
I do.
Because it's
Do
your
you?
birthday.
That is not why next week is busy.
It is your
That
birthday.
is just a little tiny thing that has nothing to do with
It's
next
a
week.
monumental thing celebrating you.
No. It's busy because it's the AXO Marriage Conference at our church.
It is, and that's going to be so fun.
Absolutely. I think we have 184 people right now signed
Somewhere
up.
around there.
So a lot of people, a lot of fun. It's going to be good.
Yep. And there's still time if anyone is local and in Western New York and wants to go to Life Church Buffalo.
.com. Head to events and sign up.
Yep.
Anyway, so you're still in your sexy boot.
Although not right now. Right now I'm taking a break because I've been in it all day. When you're in it all day, it just sticks your foot in one
so you
direction.
got like naked
And I
ankle.
really feel like
Like Harry Styles, One
I
Direction.
need to stretch it.
Watermelon sugar.
No, but I am, I don't know why you think you're funny. I am recovering though.
Thank God. It's been 2 weeks. I hope you're recovering.
I know someone was telling me that they sprained both their ankles and they were in a boot for like months.
Whoa. What? Sprained both of their ankles.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. And now she's got
I mean, you
some
might as well
kind
be in
of
a wheelchair then. Like,
She was in a boot. Now she's got some kind of brace.
I don't know. That
I don't
sounds
know
awful.
what happened, but that wasn't me.
That sounds awful.
No, just the one. But today I was like, every day I sort of test it when I get out of bed, thinking maybe by when I wake up, it'll be like good to go. And
How's that going?
Well, each day it still hurt. But today, when I stood up, I was feeling okay putting some pressure on. I was like, oh, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. I told you that.
So 12 hours later, how does that feel?
I think it's about the same.
Oh,
I've been
well,
in the
that's good
boot
then.
all
Then that's
day,
good.
though. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's about
good.
the
12
same.
hours later.
Because
feels
last
the same.
week, and like I really could feel, by the end of the day, I was exhausted.
You were?
But walking around in that stupid boot is exhausting too. Like stepping up in it and everything. It's just annoying.
These are first world problems.
I'm lucky to have a boot.
That's right. You're lucky to have a boot.
Lucky to have a job,
Lucky to have
paycheck.
lots of things.
Heat.
So just, who cares? You're good.
I'm
Let's
fine.
go. It's all good.
I don't know if I'll have a boot on for next week for the conference or not.
If you do, can we decorate it? We'll
No.
we'll
No,
bedazzle your
not.
boot.
That's so weird. No, I'm only saying
Bedazzled
because I
boots.
walk around a lot and I like to wear like boots or some heels, and I don't think I'm going to be able to. I don't know if I can do that on the outfit.
Sexy Hokos.
Anyway, what are we talking about today? I see you brought a prop.
A prop? I didn't bring a prop. I brought a book.
Isn't a book a type of prop?
I mean, I have my iPad case propping up the soundboard, so that's kind of a prop. But no, the
So
book's
you
in
know
my
what's
hand.
interesting about that?
What?
You bought this fancy, expensive soundboard, but yet you can't even use it regularly. You have to put a case under it to prop it up. I find that
I know. Like, they don't think this out because
so.
they should have pitched it different. It should be up further. The wedge should be higher. It's very, very poor design. I don't know why they did it like that.
Are
They
you
should have
gonna
pitched
rate it?
higher. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll go back to ZZ Sound or wherever I bought it. and
Well, you
rate it.
could write a review on.
ZZ Sound. That's where I
Or
bought
Amazon.
it. Or American Music.
Okay.
I don't remember which one that is. But anyway, so yes, I brought Gospeler by Willie Robertson, which is a book that came out 6 months ago.
Oh.
And I read it when it came out. And then it was really, really good. And we have our Monday Night Discipleship group. And we had done Practicing the Way. We did Crazy Love. And I was like, let's change it up a little bit. Because we're just trying to, in that group, we just try to give people
Following
tools
Jesus.
to follow Jesus practically and to share their story. And this book's all about sharing your story. I mean, the entire premise is if you can talk to your kids, if you can talk to people at your work, if you can talk to your doctor, you can share Jesus because it's just a conversation. So in this book, we started on Monday in our group, and when I was reading it, we were doing it together. There was something that stood out to me that I think I missed the first time when I read it. And it's going through and it tells their story and everything. And there's a section on chapter 10 called Wrecks and Restoration. And he talks about this truck he had that was all custom and painted up and everything. And his son, John Luke, from Duck Dynasty, wrecked his truck.
So wait, go back. Do you want to tell about who wrote the book and what
I
it's
said
about?
Willie Robertson,
Yeah, of
Duck Dynasty,
fame. He was
Duck
the
Commander,
Yeah.
Buck Commander.
and they have a podcast.
They do.
And
The
they follow
Unashamed.
Jesus.
Yeah, Phil, Jace, and Al have the Unashamed podcast. Willie's on there sometimes. A lot of different people.
It's good. It's a good podcast.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the best podcasts out there. But and then Sadie, his daughter, has her podcast, and like she speaks all
hers
over the
called?
place. Sadie, I don't remember. Thanks. I really don't remember.
Did you say thanks or thanks? Like Sadie thanks?
No, thanks for. I don't remember.
Yeah, I had it on the tip of my tongue because I was just watching it.
Yeah, but hers, she talks everything, and she really talks from, because she's mid-20s. I think she's like 24, 25. And she's married, and they have a bunch of little kids. She's having another one and everything.
they
But they
have two at
talk
home,
to
right?
that age.
Yeah.
They talk to the teens, early 20s age and everything. And, the book even talks about Sadie, how, she has always told her story, and she has a gift of sharing her story, and that it really just points back to Jesus and stuff like that. So the whole family, I mean, if you've ever seen Duck Dynasty, you know that they end with a prayer. It's all about God, and everything else is faith, family, and ducks is their whole, it's their motto. But anyway, Willie had this truck, and John Luke, his son, wrecked the truck, and they totaled the truck. So this guy saw the truck in a junkyard, and he recognized it, and he restored the truck, and it looked good as new. And Willie says in here, but the interesting thing about totaled vehicles is they are not actually unfixable, just deemed too expensive to repair. It's cheaper to just get another one than to fix the original. And, in the discipleship group, I'm thinking, well, that's everybody.
Yeah.
That we discount people. We don't share our story with them. We don't share the gospel with them because, well, they're just too broken. But
We had a friend like that you were worried was too far lost to spend, they were very
yeah,
jaded.
yeah, absolutely. And, and then when you take it to marriage and stuff like that, it's just like, wow, how many marriages end just because you think either, wow, they're just too broken,
Right.
or we're too broken.
Yeah, I'm too.
Or if you're being honest, maybe I'm too broken.
Right,
And I
that's
think
what I was
that's
gonna say.
I think that's the harder
yeah.
one. I think it's really easy to give up and say, you're too broken. I can't do this. It's not going to work. Nothing's ever going to change. Or for both of you to say, listen, we're just too broken. This isn't
We're
going
not
to
good
change.
together.
We're not good together.
I mean,
This
you've
was a
heard that.
mistake.
We're just not good as a couple. We're fine separate,
we're
but
friends, but
we're
we're
not
not
good
good.
together.
Or I think when we take an honest look at it, we will look into ourselves, look into that mirror and say, man, I just screwed up so bad that maybe it would just be better for me to just walk away. It'd be
Right.
better for her, it'd be better for the kids, be better for whatever it is.
Or it'll be better or be easier because you never want to live with that, whatever that is.
Oh, yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
because if
mean?
you have to
sta-
face
to start
that-
over instead of facing that.
And I think that's a huge part of it. It's like it's kind of like when we come to Christ and different people come to Christ, and even when we believe in Christ, it is so much easier for me to believe that God's going to fix you, or not fix you. God's going to forgive you
Right,
or God's
right,
going to
right,
forgive my kids or
right.
my neighbor or the person I work with or even the guy who did something bad than for me to think that God's going to forgive me because I know how broken I am. I
Right.
know
So,
what's in my
like,
heart.
it might be easier for you to actually share the gospel with others because you believe it for others more so than for yourself.
Yeah, and there's there's lots of people. There's church full of people like that.
Yeah.
There's church full of pastors like that. Perry Noble has talked about it multiple times that he had no problem believing that God could fix people and everything else.
Yeah.
The problem lied in him believing that God could fix him.
And a lot of that comes down to having to face your downfalls, having to face your sin, having to face what you've done, because that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
And it's easier to go through life, or as to your quote, to let it go and start over than to face your demons.
yeah, and it really really is. And I think in a lot of situations like that, we go into it and we're like, you know what, you've hurt me too much. What you've done, we can't get past. And then when we look, it's like, you know what, I'm just as bad as you. So it's easier to cut those losses than to bring our stuff out in the light too. It's easy to point a finger at you,
Right.
but it's really uncomfortable when we have to come to our spouse and say, you know what, I suck. I screwed up. You may have done this, but I did this.
That's really interesting you say that, because a couple things. Number one, how many times does a marriage fail only because of one person? The other person's 100%. There may be, 40% guilt here, 60 here. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be how weird would it be if it was 50-50, right? Like, but my point is, I don't think that there's ever 100% guilt on one person.
And I think I'm going to say something that people aren't going to like here. When God looks down on us, there's no 50-50, 60-40, 75-25. We're both sinners, so
Right.
it's equal. And we don't want to hear that part. We don't want to say, well, you should forgive me, but I can't forgive you. That's where we're comfortable at. We're not comfortable being like, listen, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. And I've already forgotten what you did.
And let's work on it.
Right, because admitting that part, just coming clean to bring those things into the light, and the Bible says all things will come into the light. You're not going to hide it. You may hide it today or tomorrow, maybe a year or 2, 10, whatever, but eventually it will come into the light. You can't hide it forever.
And then the second thing I was going to say was, how many times do you hear that one story and you are like, wow, that's terrible what you went through. I'm so sorry. But if you knew the other partner and you heard their story, it doesn't always line up exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's why that's saying there's always two sides to every story.
Yep.
So it's really, things aren't as cut and dry as a lot of people want it to look.
Yeah. But the other side of that, there's nothing totaled for God. There's nothing unfixable
Exactly.
for God. There's not a person who is unfixable. There's not a marriage that's unfixable. There's nothing that's unfixable for God.
And I like that analogy because we are broken people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think big parts of that, there's a few things. That one, we have to look inward. Look inward and upward. We got to stop staring at our spouse and be like, oh, you're just two, and you need to. Because when we're just sitting there saying, oh, you, nothing's going to change.
But that's human nature because you're seeing it from your viewpoint. And you have to get outside yourself, stop the noise, and look at it from other people's viewpoint, the other person's viewpoint.
Yeah. And then the other thing, until we're forgiven, until we have received the full grace and love of God, then we can't give something we've never had. Our capacity will never be more than what we've already received from Jesus. Mm-hmm. So if we really haven't truly given our heart, if we really don't believe, like that extra step, not, do I believe God can forgive everyone? Absolutely. If we have not come to terms with God forgiving our sin personally,
Personally.
we will never be able to forgive the person closest to us on earth because that's just way too close.
But it's easier to preach on a very high level rather than getting personal.
Yeah.
And I think actually that's why I haven't finished the book, but that's why that book is so interesting, because it's really getting in a personal level, and it's the personal that people want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, because I guess the other part of that, when you do fix something, people notice that.
Right. The
The
action
people that are
behind it.
close to you, like your kids, your family, your friends, people you work with, people who saw the mess, whether it's in you and your spouse and the whole thing, they notice that. It's kind of like Jesus says that you do not put the light under a basket. You don't hide it under the basket. He shines through in everything. The other thing, going beyond that, there are people that will be in your path that need to hear that and need to see that you have walked down whatever road it is. You have walked through whatever storm it is, whatever trial it is.
And more importantly, overcame that.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that's not the story the world tells.
Because when we're in a storm, we feel like we're going to be there forever. I mean, in your mind, you might know this will be over at some point, but that's not how you feel. Like, I remember when our oldest was a baby and she cried all the time, like nonstop. It was terrible. You couldn't put her down for a second without her screaming. And I don't mean just like baby crying. I mean, like, someone would think you're murdering and torturing someone. And I remember thinking, like, this is just forever. Like, we're in this forever. And thinking, like, is there even life outside this? Because you're in it and you're like, you don't see life outside it. So, like, the best parenting advice I ever got was just hold tight to this will actually pass. This actually will end. And when you actually stop at like 3 a.m. when you're at your wit's end and feel that, you're like, wow, that's real.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with your trials too.
Yeah. And I mean, that's so hard. When you're in the middle of those things, it's so hard. Whether it be looking at your spouse and that brokenness, that maybe there was something big. Maybe there was something that, we consider big, whatever. When that happens, unfortunately, that also brings out the worst in us, where a lot of times there's so much hurt and pain, and we want to run from that, and the things we do to numb that pain or run from that pain normally are not healthy either.
Yeah.
So in some cases, we end up doing things equally wrong or worse than what they did as a coping mechanism, or
Yeah.
retaliation to get back at them for revenge or something, or just because, man, it hurts so much, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you do have a large devastation, then you, the person who was wronged, actually have to face something, and you're forced into facing it at that moment, and you might not want to, and you might not be ready for it. Whereas the person who wrongs you, they've already faced whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, they've already come to terms with it. They already know. But you are not ready. You're like, I've been going through life. It's been fine. Why am I thrown into
Yeah.
this? Like, sort of that whole, like, almost grieving process. Why me? The anger, like, you sort of go through grieving that life was okay.
Yeah, and then I think we rationalize that, well, this isn't fair. And that's hard, because I think twofold. One, in our world today, we have gone so far from right and wrong.
Yeah.
The line is so blurry. There can't be fair and unfair. If there is no defined right and wrong, how can one thing be right? How can one thing be fair and the other be unfair? Because we're blurring that line. It's not real. It's not solid.
Yeah. I mean, according to the world, you make up your own rules.
Yeah.
You make up your own fair and unfair. So basically, anything that someone else does can't be fair or unfair because they would have their own
Yeah. Yeah, because what
hypothetical
would be
scale.
fair to me would probably be unfair to you, or
Right.
vice
So,
versa.
so that's impossible.
And I know that's something that I have as a father had many conversations with our girls about. Like something will happen and they're like, "Oh, that's not fair."
Yeah. Well, when they're
You're
young,
right.
that's like their favorite phrase, isn't it? Like, that's not
Yeah.
fair.
And I think it's a hard one to outgrow. That, we want a sense of right and wrong. We want a sense of fair and unfair, but we also want to fit it into the box of our mind and our rules. We don't want to give it to God. Like, oh, is this fair? Is this right? Is this wrong? We don't, and I think the best of us have a problem living to that. I don't think it's I think obviously there's a Christian, I'm going to say a Christian, a follower of Jesus versus a world view of that. But I still think even as a follower of Jesus, there are still things that we struggle with and think, God, that's just not fair.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to everyone. I remember we were doing, I think it was Practicing the Way. And we had a guy in that group who'd been a preacher for 40 years and he was retired. And we were talking about sin and stuff like that and how you work through things. And you get to a point where, when you first become a believer, it's hard. You struggle with different things. There's kind of like those outwardly things that are just obvious.
Yeah.
But the longer you follow Jesus, you go through a process where you're refined and you're changed. So
and God's going to start working on the deeper.
Yeah. So those sins, they're like, okay, well, they're not here. They're not here. They're not here. Over time and maturity, they're not here. They're not here. But we all have a sin nature. And there's still those things that God's working in. So I think it doesn't matter if you're a brand new believer, if you've been a believer for 50 years. It doesn't matter if you were an alcoholic on the street and you just came to Jesus, or if you've been a pastor for 50 years. There's still that stuff in your heart that God is still working through with you.
Absolutely.
None of us, because of our human nature, think everything's fair. We may say it outwardly, but inwardly there's things that you do that I know better, that I can still think, well, that's not fair, that's not right, or whatever. Even though I know better in my mind, and that in my heart there are still things there that I can struggle with from day to day. And I think that plays a lot into why we want to just walk away from things. It's like, God, I've been working at this, especially, one of the biggest demographics of divorce now are like empty nesters and stuff. So you have gotten married, you have had kids, you have gone through all the struggles of kids and everything. Most people have had multiple kids, so you've had
and
ones
the struggles of money too, because that's usually a struggle earlier on.
Yeah, and like all these different things, jobs, death, just sickness. There's just all these things over the years that have accumulated. And then you get like, okay, well, there's the last one, and you wake up and you're like, who are you? And we're like, man, I've wasted this whole time. I got to go find me. I've got to go, do what I feel like I need to do. I never accomplished this or whatever it may be. And those are the people that are just walking away and be like, oh, well, this is totaled. I'm going to walk away from it. But you put in all that time, and you should, if we're being honest, like that time should count for something. We should know these things. It's kind of like following Jesus. Like it should get refined and refined and refined. Yeah. But what we're seeing is it's totally opposite. It's not.
But I think there's so many reasons though. Like, for example, we've heard the basic one where if you don't work on your marriage, you're going to wake up one day as strangers just because you keep growing apart and you focused on just day-to-day stuff, not the real stuff. And you focused on the kids and going to football and going to like hockey, and you take them to dance and you don't know each other anymore. So when you wake up, you're so far apart that
Yeah.
it's like, I don't really want to be here with you.
Yeah.
But then there's also, you mentioned the whole like, oh, I need to find myself, or I have regret.
Yeah.
I mean, people who have just ignored themselves in their relationship for so many years are then like waking up seeing you're almost at the end, or the
Mm-hmm.
last quarter, the last half, or whatever it is of your life, and you're like scared. You're almost in a panic of like, I need to do these things. I need to do these things. And it's like panic sets in for some people. But if the two of you don't go through life communicating about that
Mm-hmm.
or talking about that, and then we've talked about caring about each other over ourselves.
Yeah.
If we care about each other over ourselves, we're going to know what the other person's goals are. We're going to know what they want to do and succeed. And it might not be our goals, but we're going to want them to succeed too. And we're going to come together to make sure we're both
Yeah.
accommodated, or we're going to get to that point. And, you know, like if I enjoy painting my nails, you're going to want me to be happy.
Am I?
I would
It
think so.
smells. But anyway.
But the point is, if you feel unfulfilled all those years, and I was just
Yeah.
using that as a point to put my nail polish in there. But no, if
Yeah.
you feel
No,
unfulfilled all
absolutely.
those years, you're going to get to a point where you have panic and you're like, I'm going to die unfulfilled. So I think like it all boils down to working on your marriage while you're in it.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that point, you might think, I had nothing all those years we were together, but it didn't count for anything. Because I know you said that should count for
Yeah.
something. And it should. But if it was empty, they might not feel that way. And then the third thing is they have to face who they are now.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
good.
might be scary. So you might just walk away because you both have done things that are wrong.
Yeah.
And if you're going to start working on your relationship, you have to face your own downfalls.
Yeah, and I think that's hard. You both have to work on it. I think that's one of the biggest things. You know, you see also stories where like one person is bending over backwards, they're doing everything, they're trying. And there are those stories that you see that are like, "Oh, and you know, she put aside everything and she tried everything." And is it Marriage on the Rock, or I think, or Four Laws of Love, one of the books we read, EXO books, was talking about this person came in for counseling, and husband and wife, and the husband didn't want to be there. He had a girlfriend who was somewhere else, and he would come home, take a shower and everything, and leave and go to his girlfriend's house, and then come home to sleep, and the next day do the same thing. And the wife decided, you know, I'm going to love him no matter what. So she would have his favorite food ready, and she would just love on him and be nice to him every time. And he's like, "Why are you doing this? You know, I'm done. Why are you doing this?" And she kept doing it, and eventually, it changed. He came back, and they lived happily ever after. But that's
I
the
don't think there's a
rarity.
happily ever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the rarity. You know, most times there can be a person like busting their butt trying,
Yeah.
you know, just giving up everything, of themselves completely. And in the end, it's just hurt and broken because the other person's just taking advantage of them. And that's one of those, you know, if you want to ask a why question, that's a good one. Why? I've done everything. I've done everything. I don't understand. You know, this wasn't supposed to be this way and everything.
But according to you, according to your own mindset, like God can transform anything.
Yeah.
And I do feel that the suffering that we're doing on this earth is just like in that situation is just so pale in comparison to the rewards we'll get in heaven. You
Yeah.
know, people have suffered for years and years over many things, and Jesus told us it will not be easy.
Yeah.
Marriage will not be easy. I mean, part of it, like when we got married, you were not a believer at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I had grown up in the church, but clearly had fallen away. I didn't have a personal relationship. But for many, many years where I felt I was suffering, I I almost blamed myself and said, well, I said I do, I have to stay. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, because that obviously takes you down a whole nother road.
Mm-hmm.
But there's gotta be, it's not just so easily to, it shouldn't be so easy to just give up and walk away.
Yeah, and I agree. That's not the answer. But I think the other thing is, like, we need to both, when we go into marriage, we need that, was it what's the, when we do the Simbas thing, what's the, is it absolute, what's the mindset?
Oh,
Resolve that, you know what, no matter what,
resolved.
we're going to work on this. Marriage is for life. We're marrying for life. Divorce is not an option. That's where we all need to be.
Yeah, and the easiest place to do that is before you get married.
Yes.
So I think you struggle because you are in this almost fairy tale world of wanting to please the person you're with and wanting to get to that point for whatever reason, whether it's for love, for acceptance, just because, oh, I'm getting old and everyone else is getting married, whatever the reason is, that it's hard at that point to stop
Yeah.
and question
Yeah.
if this is right. But then once you say I do, it's too late. Now we have to spend the rest of forever making it right. And obviously there's the caveats of
Yes.
so a spouse that is just
Active
completely
abuse,
not walking, and is
active
abusing.
addiction,
Like, I would never say stay
active
for that.
adultery. I mean, any of those things are quick. Listen, you need to just pause, get some space in there, get help. They need to get help. Doesn't matter if they say,
I
"Oh,
can feel that, but
oh, I won't." There's been too many I won'ts. Just get the help you need. Put the space in there and let God give it to God. Then, give it to God. Don't
Let
stop
God work
praying
it.
for your spouse.
Right.
Don't walk away from them. Don't abandon them. But make sure they understand
Physically walk away.
Physically walk away. But make sure that they understand that. Listen, we need this space between us. You need to get help and help them find that help. And you know what? There are people that you're not going to help.
Right.
They're not at that time. They're not going to want that
Right.
help. Don't put yourself, your kids in a situation that can end badly.
Right.
With that. I mean, if there's any of those three things,
But
you got to. But
the vast
that doesn't mean you
majority.
give up on them. That
Right.
doesn't mean, oh, okay, well, they did this, and you know what, I'm done. Run to get a divorce right then, and then 3 months, 6 months, whatever state you're in, whatever. Oh, look, I'm getting married in 6 months. Well, no, no, that's not what we're saying either. That's not the answer, because you're going to end up in a vicious cycle there. That more than likely. So, but get that space, get that. But you know what?
Get either closure or see if God will transform that situation.
Hey, give it to God. Seriously, give it to God. Give that person to God.
Because if you are praying and you are talking to God daily, it's going to be a very different situation than if you're trying to decide what you should do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no right answer for everyone. There's really not.
Because the situations are different and people are different.
Yeah. But if you're in any kind of danger, if your kids, if anything, you need to stop, get the space, and then figure it out from there. Now, if those aren't the cases, if you're unhappy with the way your spouse does something, if they're annoying you, if you feel, oh, I missed it, I could have done this. No, you're married, period. You made the choice.
I mean, even if you argue a lot, because I think that's the other thing. Communication is just so hard in marriage, and between people who are typically opposites, it's even harder.
Yeah.
And most couples are pretty opposite. So you might think, oh, this is hard. I can't do this. I can't communicate. I can't, we're always fighting. We're always, this is too hard.
But that was really good what you said there.
Work.
We are always fighting.
Yeah, we.
And that's a big part of we. So you have part of that. You have ownership.
Right.
And a lot of times it seems like the grass is greener on the other side, but that's not true. The grass is greener where you water the grass. So if you're watering the grass, if you're taking care of things, if you're taking time to learn how to communicate, just spend, one of the biggest things with learning how to communicate is just resolving to say, you know what, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk and I'm going to listen, and maybe I'll bite my tongue off and won't say a thing, but I'm still going to sit here and listen. And, when I say listen, I don't mean like just let the words flow through you. I mean to actually listen so that you hear what they're saying to you. You may not agree with all of it, but I guarantee you there are things in there that you did not know. And there are things in that that will make you think differently, and things that you can use to better the relationship in one way or another. But you have to actually actively listen, hear the other person to do that. But when you sit there and you both say, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk, that starts communication.
Yeah.
That starts communication. And that's a huge thing, because there's a lot of people that don't take the time to set it aside to actually talk. And you don't have to talk through issues all the time. Take the time, like date night, take the
Right.
time to have time together, to spend time pouring into one another. Don't talk serious on date nights. Don't do that. Find some other time to do that.
You can talk
Have fun.
serious, but not
Yeah, but have fun. Don't
confrontational.
Not confrontational at all, but have fun. It's funny, one of the EXO speakers is going to talk about that. That'll be Friday night. That'll be the last one on Friday night that's going to talk about that, and talks about that her and her husband went on a date night and she thought it was great, and then it wasn't. And it was just one of those conversations that you shouldn't have had on date night.
Probably not on date night,
Probably
but
not a good conversation for date night. But
there are so many good communication tips. And I know we have talked about communicating and communicating well. And that's almost ironic because so many times you and I fail.
yeah,
At
and I'm
communication.
actually reading a Les Parrott book right this second, Les and Leslie Parrott, The Good Fight, and that's exactly what it talks about. I mean, they are behavioral specialists, they are psychotherapists, they are counselors,
Yeah.
they're professors and everything else. But guess what? They're just like us. They fight.
Yeah.
And it's not that you won't fight, it's how you fight that's important. It's what you do during the fight, and it's what you do after the fight that
Yeah,
counts.
that's really good. I think that people think that they shouldn't ever fight. Oh, we never fight. We never. But
That's not healthy.
that's not even true. Well, I'm sure there are some couples that are probably really, really close, and they're not close. Similar. I was going to say like close and like personality. So the more similar you are, there's probably
How boring is that?
less fight. I don't know.
I mean, seriously, how boring is that?
I don't know.
Like, I think it would be good for a little bit. Like, I think we've talked about this before. I think maybe like 6 months, a
okay.
year. But I think somewhere by 5 years, it's got to be like, this is so boring. I do
But
the same thing every day. We have the same.
What if you love boring and routine? What
I
if
don't
you
think
enjoy
anyone-
that? I love routine.
I don't think anyone. That's like Groundhog Day.
Okay.
Like the movie. It's like Groundhog Day. You
Or
wake up
50
every
First
day and
Dates.
it's like, oh,
So do you think Adam
Again.
Sandler did not want Drew Barrymore to have to repeat that day all the time?
oh, absolutely. I think, I
But
mean,
he
I think
loved
that's a
her
great,
so
yeah.
much.
I mean, that is a great picture of love. But on the other side, he's got to be thinking, oh, just let it be over. Let her remember. You know what I mean?
It's a movie, though.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? You got to be like, even the most loving gestures that people do over and over, in the back of the mind's got to be like, okay, let's please let this be it. Let's, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
and really, and it's kind of like when you're having a fight and it's something you fought about 50 times. In the back of your mind, somewhere during that, or when it goes bad and it didn't go, you got to be thinking, why is this not that time? Why didn't it change? And let me say something about that too, because I know I'd said it before. Like, when you're going through bad things, like asking God why. It's okay to ask God those questions.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
a whole
take
book
it
of
to
the
God.
Bible about that, Lamentations.
Limitations
And if you just look through Psalms, all these things, it's okay
to bring it.
to bring it to God. He can handle it. He's a big God. And when we open up that communication, that'll change it. And I'll add this. If we don't have this communication right with God, if he's just this friend that we call on when we need
Yeah.
something, don't expect this to be right.
Yeah.
Don't
I mean,
expect
we
it
say
to.
that a lot, but I think that it's just because that's the foundation.
Yeah.
And so many things that happen in marriage and that go wrong in marriage can really be fixed with starting there. Just start there.
Yeah. And
Start there.
we were just talking to someone about that not long ago, who's a pastor, and they said the same thing. Like most of the marriage issues with people they counsel, people they see, it goes back to that. It
Yeah.
goes back to you don't have that strong foundation of Jesus.
Right.
And if you don't have that, I mean, when Jesus says, "You're my follower, pick up your cross every day and follow me," there will be troubles. I've had troubles. What do you expect?
Right.
And if
We're
you
not
don't
better
have that
than-
foundation of Jesus, then how bad's it going to be? I think if we just logically look at that, wow, if God says it's going to be like this, and we see what happened to him, and we don't have him,
Yep.
it's not going to end well.
But in the end,
In the end, he wins. Every knee will
he
bow.
wins, and in the end, there is nothing too broken
No,
God can't fix.
absolutely.
I mean, that's very encouraging. I like
Yeah.
that you picked that out today and that you were,
Yeah, and I
Thinking
think
about
we
that.
just need that in the back of our minds that, you know what?
yeah.
Like today might suck. It might. Work on the communication.
Today's a good day.
Yeah, I'm not talking about us. I'm just saying that, it might suck because
Whatever
we're
reason.
sinners.
Because-
I mean,
yeah.
there's just
So much.
I could say a million things. I really, really could. But most of those come back to my self-centeredness and that I think it sucks, not that it really does.
Right.
Like, I think my first world problem's this big problem
Yep.
when it's not,
Yep.
and we think, oh, it's like you said with your foot. It's like, oh, well, I have this boot. There are places in this world where there is no boot.
I know.
There's places in the world where there's not even a doctor to go see.
I know.
So
Like,
did
think
it
about
suck? Yes.
when
Is it inconvenient? Yes. Is it going to be okay? Yes.
God's people were in slavery in Egypt still, and they had to build everything for
Yeah.
Pharaoh, and they'd probably sprained their ankle and had to keep working.
That's right.
So,
But yeah, I mean, it's all perspective. And, there are people who pray for what you have,
I know.
whether it be your child that you have issues with, whether it be your marriage you have issues with, or your job, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There are people
There's
who
someone
pray for
praying
that.
right now. Yep. I get
Yeah.
it. I get it.
So, but I don't know. I think we're gonna be quick today.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. You talk a lot,
Mm,
but we got to get you healed up for next week. It's gonna be a crazy, crazy busy week.
your big birthday.
That's the least of my concerns. It's gonna be a crazy week, but it's all gonna be worth it. I did get an early birthday present from my wonderful wife.
You did.
She is so awesome. She knew exactly what I wanted.
Is it because you ordered it for yourself?
It might have been. It may have been.
Do you
You're
find
pro-
that unromantic?
As a wise man once said, you're probably right.
Do you find that unromantic?
Oh, I don't think. Let's see, 25. In 25 years, well, this will actually be the 26th birthday that I've shared with you. I can't think of you ever giving me a romantic birthday gift.
Oh,
So
good. So we just
I don't
it's a
I don't
win
equate my birthday with romantic. So
with romance.
no, I mean I just don't. No,
Okay.
I don't. I'm trying to think. My birthday. I don't ever remember anything romantic, but I think the gift is something that will help bring us together and give us something else to
Yes.
do and things
Yes.
like that too. I mean, I think we tried it out today, so that was good.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun.
So I think that's good, and hopefully this stupid weather changes. Like we had one day.
Do you want to
of-
tell anyone what
50
you got so
degrees.
that people aren't left in?
I got a Ferrari.
No, he didn't get a Ferrari.
That's right. I wouldn't want a Ferrari. I got a new pair of binoculars because I'm getting old.
And you want to spy on people?
No, I could care less. Trust me.
Yes.
No, so this whole getting old thing, and like it is. I'm telling you, I'm getting old. I really, really am.
But we enjoy walks.
We
We
do.
enjoy the outdoors.
We do. So we enjoy that. But I decided, and I think it's been like this year, there's like the way we've been kind of trending and doing things, like we resolved to stay home more. Like we have busy weeks. We really, really do. Some weeks are super busy and like we're only home 2, 3 nights by ourselves. And that's with the kids too, but by ourselves. We're running the other nights here, there, and everywhere. Some nights we don't get home till 10, 11 o'clock.
I know,
And
yeah.
then 7 a.m., you're starting all over again. So we have decided, you know what, we're not going to do that as much. So
Slow
like
down a little bit.
some of the stuff we do, like some premarital, some meetings with people and stuff, we do at the house or we do it
Yeah.
virtually.
So
And
we don't really slow down. We just change.
so, yeah, we changed it, but we gained so much time by doing that.
Don't you feel like that was actually, I mean, we haven't reflected on a whole year of that.
No.
Just like a month,
Yeah.
month and
Month or so, but I mean, I
month-ish.
can't.
Don't you
I
feel
think
like
we've had more
that's been
people in our
a-
house in the last month than we have in.
But don't you think
I won't say
that's
last year
a
because we
good
have some big stuff every once in a while at the house too. But
intentional positive change?
It is.
Because I didn't think it would be this impactful. It was more of a, oh, I wish we could do this, and that's really what, like our retreat weekend. That's
Yeah.
the one thing we really pulled out of that.
yeah, that's what we got out of this year, so which is good.
Yeah.
But with that, also it's like, all right, I want to slow things down. I want to appreciate things more.
Yeah, appreciate things more.
So that means more fishing,
Yes,
which is something I always do.
and I like
But more
to do.
fishing, and yeah, you enjoy doing that. More walks or hiking or whatever. You're not much of a hiker. More walks
But I do like.
in the woods. We can walk in the woods as long as there's not all these bugs.
I
that-
mean, I do like the trails that you don't like. Like when we go to Allegheny, you don't want to do the trails, and I
some of
do.
them, yeah.
And when we go to, well, we did the Adirondacks last
Yeah.
year. That's
So more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe some more camping, but also bird watching.
yes. And we saw some really cool birds today.
We did. We saw some that are just kind of like here for the winter and we're going to be out of here soon. Some, they call them lifers, the ones you might see only once in a lifetime. But so yeah, we got
I
some.
thought that was just like a list that you made for your life.
No. These are like, if you watch the YouTube.
Okay,
videos
all
and
right.
read
I'll
the
learn
books,
more about bird
listen to
watching.
the
This is not going to turn into a
it's
bird
not
watching
bird
conversation.
watching. It's birding. There's a difference.
Well,
Bird watching, you sit and you wait for the bird to come to you.
okay. Anyway,
Birding, you go to
So-
find the bird.
happy birthday to Kevin.
Yeah, so I get some really nice, made in the USA, lifetime,
Okay.
lifer binoculars. So, but yeah,
Bye, guys.
have a great week. We'll have one more before the EXO conference next week. It's going to be crazy. But
That'll be our roller coaster. Then we can nap. A
yeah,
good
then
Sabbath
then
nap.
we're going to have a nice Sabbath nap on next
like
Sunday.
a 4-hour Sabbath nap.
But like the podcast, share it with your friends, leave a comment, subscribe if you are in the Buffalo area or if you can be.
Come join
March
us.
14th and 15th, come join us, Life Church Buffalo, EXO Marriage Conference, lifechurchbuffalo.com to sign up. Have a great week, guys. See ya.